Now I'm tiny and the video is here. What is this video, you might ask? And I'm gonna say, I don't know. It's a random video. It says, Throne and Liberty class guide. Oh, you can't see this. Oh, there we go. Throne and Liberty class guide. What is the best class and weapon for you? I don't know. I don't know. I wanna see. I wanna learn. What is the best? When the game starts, there's gonna be a lot of people that already played on the Korean server. And there's gonna be a lot of people that actually know the game already. I wanna know a game a little. I don't wanna min-max it necessarily. At some point I do. Do I want to compete with them? I wanna be able to play with them. I wanna be on the same level of understanding at least. I don't need to compete with them. But I want to understand what they are even talking about. Because the MMO community, they're rough, you know. They will use abbreviations like LFG, 3K, DPS, RESKPD, 56, LOD, blob, you know, when they advertise for a group or something, right? And then you need to know what do these things mean. And then when you go into a raid, you know, and they say like you need to be experienced, you actually need to know what's happening, you know, because they're gonna skip like 70% of the mechanics, and you need to be aware of this stuff. There is no class system, but instead of a class system, you have weapons, and you can wield 2 weapons. That we have already learned. So what combinations are good? What does it mean to be a healer? What does it mean to be a DPS? So let's see. I'm just curious. What are the possibilities? What can you do? And what are the combinations of stuff, and like what does it mean, right, as well, because I don't really like playing melee. Yeah, let's learn about the class guys with Janusz. XQ.
Kids here, and welcome back to a brand new video. For today,
Hello.
I will show you the best class guide in Throne and Liberty. In general, this game has a lot of unique classes and weapons to play and choose from. But the big question is, what is the best and highest damage class for you? So we will take a look at all the new classes
I don't know.
to see which one will suit your playstyle and dominate the current meta. If this sounds
Okay, so what is the correct class for me? Tell me.
interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then before we get into each class, let me quickly explain how the class system works. Unlike in many other MMO
How does
games,
it work?
in Throne and Liberty there isn't a class system, but instead
There you go. Let me explain how the class system works. Unlike any games, there is no class system. Thank you. That's phenomenal.
your class is decided by which weapon you have equipped. Every player can equip 2 weapons on your character and swap between them at will. Swapping weapons
Swap at will. Wait, so there's no cooldown? Is there a cooldown? There might be cooldown. There must be cooldown, right? No way. So if you can have 2 weapons equipped, so what is the most sexy weapon that we could actually think of? Because like you have to remember, it's an MMO, right? So if you play an MMO, you have to think about the looks, right? Is it not the most important thing in an MMO? That your character actually looks dope as hell and you want to play it every single time. So if you can have 2 weapons, what would be the... You probably want some big weapons, right? So the skins look good. So like a longsword would be nice. But I don't like melee, so maybe longsword is not the way for me. Maybe it is a bow. A bow would be decent. And then I'm pretty sure we're gonna see, yeah, but the archer is like lowest DPS or something. So I would like a bow to be decent, and I would like a... What else would I like? I would also like a staff to be nice, you know, so we can throw out some spells. Let's see.
an issue, because unlike in New World, it will be automatic. You have a skill bar from 1 to 12, and you can just press any skill on that bar, and it will activate.
Okay. So you just have 2 weapons, and then you assign the skills. And once you press the skill, then you're using the weapon that is assigned to this skill, let's say, or where the skill is coming from. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So we don't actually have to swap like in Guild Wars, for example. In Guild Wars, you have 2 weapons, right? But you have to swap in between them. And once you swap, you get access to the skills from that weapon, right? But then again, you cannot swap for like a couple of seconds after. So you actually have to manage them well. I don't really know what are the weapons of choice in Throne and Liberty, but I think that most games have a lack of weapon choice. What? Just swords, bows, and magic. Yeah, okay, it always comes down to like magic DPS, magic support, some sort of ranged, like a crossbow or a bow, and some sort of melee. And then, like melee, you usually get a lot of stuff like axes, great axes, swords, long swords, shields, I don't know, maces, like bludgeoning weapons as well, things like this, right? Or hammers, I don't know, so things like this, right? So that's usually where it comes to that. But I wouldn't say that there is a lack of weapon choice, but let's see. I mean, the first that I'm seeing is like sword and shield. Okay. Can you get any more vanilla than that? Sword and shield.
With that out of the way, for our first class we have the Sword and Shield. This weapon is your typical tank player that maintains very high defenses and provides survivability.
Do we want to be a
You
tank?
can protect
I
your
don't know.
allies by
I don't
using
know.
the weapon as a crowd controller, which will allow you
I
to
don't know
lead
if we want
fights
to
from
be a
the
tank.
front of the battlefield. You can also aggro hard-hitting mobs, taking the pressure of your damage dealers. The sword and shield weapon is a great choice for players who prioritize survivability above all else.
No, we don't survive. No, it's not about surviving. It's about dealing as much damage as possible. You know, we aim to be the glass cannon here, okay, guys? We don't like we aim to be a person that can outplay the game. You know, we want to outplay the mechanics. We don't want to survive them. Yeah, no, but there's usually like why do you not want to play the tank? There's usually a lot of tank players. Like the way MMOs are structured, there's a lot of tank players. There is a lot of DPS players, there's not a lot of support players. Usually when there's raids, you only need one tank, a lot of DPS, and like 1 or 2 supports, right? So this is how the games usually go. We'll see if it is also the case. The reason why you would not like to be the tank is that, you know, the queues will be very long. And also, when you want to go raiding, obviously, or if you want to go to dungeons and stuff like this, a lot is depending on you. So if you like having a lot of responsibility, and let's say an easier gameplay, because you don't really have to focus on dodging this much, right? So if you want to have an easier gameplay, but also a lot of responsibility on you, like pulling mobs, you know, making sure the bosses are where they need to be, and actually learning the encounters really well, then tank is for you.
While you might not deal as much damage, you have the best survivability in both PvE and PvP. Every group wants to bring a tank, but often no one wants to play it, because of its weak overall damage. This class pros are that you get high survivability, because you can reflect damage and make enemies pay for attacking you. Then
No one wants to play the tank.
that grabs the attention of the enemies
Because the
with
DPS
top
numbers are not
aggro,
big, okay.
which is very important in the
Fair
PvE.
enough.
Lastly, you have amazing damage reduction, because we can reduce the damage for ourselves and the group.
Damn,
And
now I
then
want to
for
play
cons,
tank.
We have that we get low damage,
Damn.
so your damage output
But
will
I
be
just said I'm not
dreadful,
gonna.
unless you have an excellent offhand
Oh, no.
combined. Then second of all,
By the way,
we
these
have
spiders
weak
look really
mobility,
nice.
so
And
we are forced to
the
play a
explosions are
melee-only
cool.
playstyle
Love that.
without range. And finally, we are support-only character. So if you want to do solo content or power level, then you will need to use a different weapon. So overall, if you're a tank player, then this is the class for you.
Okay, dokes. So yeah, straight away, do you want to be a tank? Probably not. Probably not. But there is a chance that I might be. You know, I like being useful. I don't necessarily have to be the carry type in any game. I like being useful. So if by useful they mean yeah, just be the tank. You know, land the encounters actually quite well. Then I might just do it. Duckie, shorter sword. What a choice. Okay. But this is 2 daggers, right? No
This
more
weapon
shields.
specializes in wounding enemies using poisonous CC attacks and stealth. The dagger in Throne and Liberty is a melee weapon.
Yeah, okay. So dagger is like the most classic assassin archetype that you hate, right? Basically. It's just pure hell, right? It's probably a lot of invisibility, it's just backstabbing, and it's just making your life absolutely miserable.
It burst damage, making it perfect choice for players looking to create an assassin type of character. Dagger playstyle is centered around increasing critical chance, positioning the weapon to the side or rear of the target for extra damage, and delivering multiple hits.
Yeah, so
in
this is
rapid
what you're gonna see in
succession.
PvP a lot.
One of the dagger's key
Just guessing.
advantages is its speed and agility. It is a lightweight weapon that allows for quick movement, making it easier to dodge attacks and close in on enemies. Our weapon's pros are that we get high crits, so you can quickly burst down enemies from 100 to 0 HP.
Yeah, exactly. So that's for that reason alone, right? It's gonna be very good in PvP probably. But this is always the case, right? There is PvE classes and there is PvP classes. Sometimes they overlap, but not that often. And yeah, the assassins they usually suck at PvE because they are way too squishy, and they don't offer any utility at all. Because they're just pure DPS, but they are really good at PvP because they can disappear most of the time.
Then second of all, we get great mobility. So by using various dagger skills, we can move insanely quickly. And finally, we have amazing burst. So the dagger playstyle is built around mainly short-lasting fights. And then for cons, we have to position our character very carefully. So for us to maximize damage, we will need to constantly focus on positioning. Then second of all, daggers are very PvP focused.
There we go,
This
PvP
weapon
focus.
type isn't built for
Straight-
group PvE.
straight
but mainly
away,
solo.
told you.
And finally, we don't have great offhand choices. So because of our fast and high damage, our offhand choices and stat optimization are quite limited.
Yeah, there we go. Straight away, there we go. I told you, like this is PvP. If something is PvP focused, yeah, I'm not gonna be doing that. I might do it for fun, right? Just to play some PvP. But it's not gonna be my main for sure. No, no. I've said it multiple times. I'm not playing MMO to play PvP. Like if I want to play PvP, I'm just gonna play League of Legends. Or any other game that is out there, like Smite 2 or what is Deadlock? I don't know, games like this, right? Longbow.
Then for the third weapon, we have the longbow.
I have a lot of hope for this one. Okay, I kinda like the idea of being an archer, like the fantasy of being an archer in MMO. So let's see.
This weapon type specializes in long-range sniping, binding enemies from behind, and dealing maximum damage. It can also be used to accelerate stealth recovery of party members, making it a huge asset to your allies. Right
huge
now, this is considered as one of the best weapons in the game.
Yes!
Of its high damage,
Yes!
offhand, amazing skills, and exceptional range.
That's what I want to hear.
Combining
The
this
best
with
weapon in the game. Yes, we might be some longbow enthusiasts, let's say.
dagger or a staff can result in the highest possible DPS in the game. In addition, you can use the longbow in PvP battles by equipping a wand as an offhand weapon. This setup can provide crowd control and healing abilities, making it an amazing combo.
There we go.
The pros are that we get great damage for both PvE and PvP.
So it's good for
We have
PvE and
great
PvP.
range,
Love to hear
so
that.
we can play at distance and still do crazy damage. Then the longbow is very easy to play.
Easy to play,
because
yeah,
it will
okay,
resemble
okay.
any other archer.
That's
type
good
of
for a
class.
boomer like me, okay?
And finally, we get
That's good.
self-healing. So not only we can do damage, but you can even heal yourself and others. But then for cons, we only have one, which is that we don't get great offhand choices.
But you
The
just said
only
you get good
downside
one,
for
no?
the longbow
You can use a wand,
is that
no?
it doesn't synergize very well with other offhands. So overall, the longbow is the most
Fine.
effective primary weapon currently in the game.
Sounds good to me. Ah, there's the great sword. The great sword, the barbarian fantasy of smashing. Let's go.
And next up, we
I
have
wanna
the
know.
great sword. This is a well-balanced weapon.
Oh, alright. Great sword, you know.
That
Also an
combines
option.
devastating combo attacks with high stealth.
That's how
With
every
East
East European
shattering
person would
AoE
say it.
attacks, it instantly penetrates the enemy defenses and dominates the battlefield. This is widely considered to be the most powerful melee weapon. It is especially
It
useful
makes sense,
for
it should
tank
be, no?
players who seek to maximize their damage output, and is also a great choice for PvP combat.
Oh, okay. So we have, so if you want to be a tank, you can be a full tank with the shield, or you can be like off tank with great sword, which is actually not a bad idea. I do
Pros
like
are
me
that
some
we
great
get
swords.
amazing AoE damage,
And they get
which
good
will
skins,
become
you
even
know,
more
they get good
powerful in
skins,
the
because they're big.
endgame. Then as well we get crowd control,
Love to see that.
so you can stun enemies reliably, which is
That's
especially
a cool
amazing
medium,
for
by the way.
PvP.
The Moas.
And lastly, most
Just
players
slap
like
the
to
Moas.
use this weapon with a sword and shield, which would give us high survivability, but very high AoE damage as well. And then for cons, we have that we have no range, so you're entirely dependent on melee damage. Then
That's
second of
okay.
all, we
That's
are
usually
very
not a
offhand
problem.
dependent.
By the way, like with MMOs, like ranged classes is a myth, you know? It all comes down to the fact that, yeah, you are ranged, but, and then there's a lot of it. But if you're playing PvE, you really want to stand close to the group so you get the buffs and things like this, so everyone can heal you in time, things like this. So you're never really ranged in MMOs. Like even if you're ranged, you're still kind of melee because you have to be close to the group. In PvP as well, like you don't want to spread, right? So if you have a tank, a healer, and some sort of like range DPS in a PvP, you don't really want to spread too much, right? So you still, yes, you are ranged and you can kite people, but you're not really that ranged. You're never gonna be able to shoot from miles away, like in first-person shooters, for example. Like you're never gonna be a sniper, like real one. No, that's not happening at MMO ever. So yeah, range is there, but and usually like also melee classes, they get a lot of gap closes. So they get jumps, they get teleports, they get blinks, things like this. So yeah, being melee is not that bad. It's not as bad as it sounds, at least in MMOs. Remember that. So that's not a problem.
So if you pick the wrong offhand, then you will lose out on damage. And lastly, we have to gap close.
Wait, every weapon has a problem with offhands. What are you saying, bro? It can't be that every weapon has a bad offhand.
So we will lose out on damage.
So far,
spending
every
time
single
to
one.
Get closer to our enemies.
That's what he's saying.
But overall, if you prefer playing characters whose skills resemble a melee bruiser, then the greatsword is the perfect choice for you.
There we go, melee bruiser. Maybe. Oh, there we go. Staff. I want to be a
For the
staff
fifth
gamer.
class, we have the staff. This
Staff
weapon
gamers
type
unite.
allows you to freely control various magic elements. You can deal devastating damage with explosive magic attacks and lead the battlefield in your
Yes,
favor.
I wanna be
This staff is a
Gandalf.
weapon that excels at clearing out weaker enemies and is especially useful for power leveling.
And this is the moment where we actually wait and we just say, okay, this is the best weapon in the game. Just use it. Ignore all the others, right? We need to hear that, okay?
Can be used in different ways, depending on the situation. However, it will fall short in a single target damage. So then our pros are that we
Okay,
have
so that's
AoE
so that's for
damage. This is
AoE.
your
Okay,
weapon if
that's
you like
decent.
massive elemental damage and AoE.
The question is, do we need AoE damage? This is the thing. Like most of the time, single target damage is always better than AoE damage, right? Because like raids, dungeons, PvP, it mostly focuses on one person. It's not really a weapon though. It is. It is. And you can usually use it in two different ways, right? You can use this stuff as a melee weapon and then you're kind of a monkish archetype, monkish fantasy, you know, with all of the agility moves where you bonk people really hard. Or you can be a mage, you know, it possesses magical powers like Harry Potter's wand. And then you can Avada Kedavra them.
Destruction.
The magic is in the weapon.
And we are also great for power leveling. So nothing can beat clearing waves of enemies while leveling with.
So we have high AoE with this stuff. We have fast leveling. That's okay. This is decent. So we can just use the stuff to level up, and then we can switch,
and lastly,
right?
range.
Yeah, long range.
From insanely far
As
away.
I have mentioned, not really
But
relevant.
For cons, we have that you get long cooldowns. So we will have to use our spells very carefully. Then second of all, we have
Okay.
survivability. So we will have to kite enemies.
That's
Do not
obvious,
let
right?
them
That's
approach us
you're
in
trading
melee
damage for
range. And finally, we
survivability. That's
have lower damage than
understandable.
the longbow or the crossbow. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that the staff is more effective as a supporting weapon to complement any other primary weapon.
okay. So staff is the offhand weapon. Okay. Ah, there we go. Crossbow. You wanted a different weapon. That is long range.
This is a weapon that allows you to fight in style, with fast
Fight in
movement
style,
and
what does it
unrelenting
mean?
attack speed. You can leave marks and unleash merciless barrage on the weak enemies.
Okay, so these are
Bring
like
them down.
hand crossbows. This is not a big crossbow. These are like small hand crossbows, you know, that you use. So a Van Helsing type of weapon, I would say. And also one thing that I did notice is you might be ranged, but he's still fighting melee range.
In a second, the crossbow is known for its high single target damage and debuff potential, making it a popular choice among players who prefer a class with a more precise and tactical approach.
Okay, so basically with the hand crossbow, it's gonna be very similar to daggers. Like you're pretty much some sort of assassin, right? That is high single target damage and is very agile. That's good to know.
This weapon is very useful when fighting bosses or other high-value targets that require focused single target DPS, while the crossbow lacks.
There is a big problem with crossbows that I have personally. Their models are really small and you cannot make good skins for them. That's a very important.
AoE, it more than makes up for it with its versatility and DPS numbers. So for pros, we have that we get great single target DPS, as this is the second best damage weapon in the game. Then second of all, we get range, so we can play at long ranges,
Okay.
taking any damage whatsoever. And lastly, we are very versatile. So this is the most versatile weapon that's in it.
But does it have good offhand?
In the game.
Oh, it
And
has.
For cons, we have that we are only focused on single target damage.
Yeah, only single target, that's not a problem. It's only a problem when you're leveling up. It just takes more time to get stuff done. But like most of the end game content is usually focused around single targets. So that's not really a minus. We're okay with this.
So most players prefer the longbow for similar range, but more versatile gameplay. And second of all, you are kind of jack of all trades. So this weapon is the master of none, but great all-around choice.
Yeah, okay, if you do everything but
choice
do nothing well, that's a problem indeed. Wand and Tome. Okay, so this is how you become a true mage. Because you have
Then
Tome
for the last
with knowledge,
weapon of
right?
class, we have the Wand and Tome. This weapon supports friendly players with healing, magic and buffing skills. You also get a powerful curse skill that not only helps your party to survive, but also weakens the enemies, which in return.
Okay, so this is a
maximize your
support
friendly
class build.
players'
Okay,
damage.
okay.
The Wand
Instead of a
and Tome
bard,
is
we get
especially
this.
effective in boss raids
Or can you be a bard
fights.
in this game?
Overall, this is considered to be the best choice for solo players or healer classes, because of its skills to provide both healing and crowd control.
Okay, so if you wanna be a tank, you go with a sword and shield. If you wanna be a damage, you basically take anything. And if you wanna be a support, you take Wand and Tome. Okay, understood.
It's the primary weapon for support roles in groups, but even PvPers and solo players can use it as an offhand weapon to increase their survivability. So for pros, we have the
Best support.
that
Nice.
can buff,
Do you want to be a support player? The thing is, with support players, there is a lot of them usually as well. Like the most obviously, everyone wants to be a DPS. But there's also like a lot of people that like supporting others. They just don't want to have the stress of being on the damage meter and being judged by others. So then they go support. But the problem is, like it's a bait. It's a bait, you know, because support players, they don't usually appear on the meters. You can't really judge them by the stats that they're putting out, but they are crucial. And if you have a bad support player in a very important piece of content, then you will know it straight away, right? Because you're going to be dying a lot. They think they're escaping the responsibility of dealing damage, but in reality, they're taking even bigger responsibility of making sure people survive. So it's like League of Legends. It's a little bait, you know. When you pick support, you think you're escaping the necessity to farm. So you're escaping a game mechanic that you think is difficult. But then again, you pick the most important role in the game. And if you don't know what it comes from, like what are your objectives, like what are your goals, what do you need to achieve, then it's a problem. Then it's basically just a problem for the entire team.
Combat. Then second of all, we have crowd control. So the bond excels at stunning enemies, which is great for both PvE and PvP.
Oh, okay, crowd control, very important indeed. Mostly in PvP. PvE not so much. Because bosses cannot be like crowd controlled. I mean, usually there's like break bars that you have to do in order to even continue with the encounter, but it's not real CC, right? It's just a check if you have CC skills and if you can use them at a certain time.
Have that this weapon focuses on too much support and lacks any kind of damage, which is his
any kind of
drawback.
damage, okay.
So if you go solo,
you have some damage. You can kill a crab, that's something. You can kill a hermit crab.
And that's about it.
What is this, by the way? Chest. What is this monster? Iron Chestacean.
So if you
It's a walking
solo,
chest.
Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Questions or suggestions? Then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe, and enable that notification bell. So this way you could support the channel and not miss any more amazing content. With that,
I enjoyed the video. I did enjoy the video. I'm gonna give him a thumbs up. Oh no, I'm designing, so I can't give him a thumbs up. I'm sorry. But let's have a look at this video. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. I'm interested in what weapons are there. He's gonna talk about the greatsword. So that's greatsword. Oh, okay, it's all about greatsword. Then it says sword and shield. So we've already learned about these two, right? So this is for tanks. Greatsword is for DPS. And then we have the dagger. Then we have the bow, which I believe the other guy called longbow, unless they are two different weapons. Then there is the crossbow. Then there is the staff, and there is the wand. So maybe there are not so many weapons actually. Maybe there are not so many weapons, because if this is the ultimate class weapon guide, then maybe there's no more. So the idea behind weapons is, if I understand correctly, you have a greatsword. I'm not gonna watch the whole video, but I'm just gonna skip through it. So you have the greatsword, right? Which basically is just melee DPS. If you want to be an off tank, so a class that is still relatively tanky, but not completely full tank, then you pick a greatsword, right? If you want to be a full tank, then you change the greatsword into sword and shield. Then you're becoming like pure tank archetype. You have taunt, you have counter attacks, you have a lot of blocks. You're full on tanking mode. So not a lot of damage, but you can survive for ages. And you can taunt enemies, which is important. If you want to be an assassin, you pick daggers, right? Yeah, you pick daggers or hand crossbows, let's call them, right? And then you become sort of an assassin. So very squishy, but a lot of mobility, a lot of agility, and then you just deal insane amount of damage, single target damage, right? If you want to be a pure DPS, you pick a bow, basically. But that's single target damage, right? But if you want to be AoE damage kind of guy, so maybe for larger battles, right? Oh, but actually, maybe it makes sense, right? For PvP larger battles, or if there's like events when there's a lot of enemies storming you, then maybe actually stuff and its AoE actually makes sense, right? So if you want to be a DPS class, like a pure DPS class without any fancy mobility stuff, then you go basically bow or staff. And if you want to be a support player, then you pick up a wand. And then you are healer or support. You can heal people, you can shield them, right? You can buff them, or you can debuff enemies. You have some CC. That's good. That's good to know. So these are the main weapons that we have. That's interesting. That is interesting. I'm gonna watch this video as well. I'm actually interested. I wanna know what is his point of view.
Throne and Liberty is right around the corner. You got the open beta test in a couple of weeks and launch 2 months after. In this video,
When
I'm
was it
gonna be
released?
breaking
1
down
month ago.
all of the
Okay.
including recommended meta classes. When I say classes, I mean weapon combinations and Throne and Liberty.
The important thing is, can you actually max out? Like, do you actually level up weapons in Throne and Liberty? Do you level up weapons in Throne and Liberty? Weapons and armor from require scaling amounts of armor gravestones and weapon gravestones. Okay, you level up the weapons. Okay, you level them up. So you're not allowed to use everything from weapons straight away, which makes sense. But yeah, so in theory you can just have one character, right? You don't need to create a separate character for each weapon because that would be insane unless you like that. But you can just have one and just switch. Okay, that's nice.
Classes are in the form of weapons. For example, you could use a greatsword, you could use a sword and shield, you could use a greatsword, you could dagger. You can combine the two to whatever combination of weapons you use is essentially your class. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down each weapon individually as well as some recommended classes and abilities and just all that good stuff. I always do a class guide video for every video game that I play that I invest a lot of time into. So
yes,
here's the Throne and Liberty version. If you enjoy the video, all I ask is for you to like and subscribe. I'm getting very close to 100,000 subs, which is a huge goal of mine. And if you want to check out Throne and Liberty gameplay,
that's canon, no? And the previous guy was what? Canon something, no?
Streaming a lot of Throne all the way to and through the launch. Come hang out with
me. Was it not the same guy?
I hope you guys enjoy the video.
Hey, was it not the same guy? No, it's Kaid. Oh my god, does every Throne and Liberty guy start with K? Let's go.
There's obviously some overlap here, so I will not be repeating the same build twice. For example, I won't be talking about Greatsword, Sword, Shield in both the Greatsword and Sword Shield sections. So if I don't talk about Greatsword, Sword, Shield in the Shield section, for example, then simply check the Greatsword section. The next thing to know is that in Throne and Liberty, every weapon you equip has a minimum attack and maximum attack range. A critical hit in this game is simply the maximum attack range being landed on your target. You also have what's called a heavy attack, which is...
Okay, so critical hit is just max damage. Interesting. I would imagine it's like max damage times 2 or something, right?
A ×2 on whatever damage you land. For example, if your attack lands for 4,830 damage with an X2...
I like how he's showing like every weapon has damage, and then you see numbers like 35 to 150. Okay, that's decent, right? That's understand. I know these numbers, and then he just hits.
A ×2.
He just hits for 4.8k.
For 4,830 damage. With an X2 that pops up next to it, you're dealing double that damage. Another term to understand...
X2 means ×2. Okay, that's good to know.
That almost all negative effects, including dots and debuffs, are referred to as weaken in Throne and Liberty. Final point is that NCSoft has announced extended skill expressions, allowing you to tailor skills further. For example, removing the cast time on a casted fireball skill. This update is expected to come in the coming months, and I plan on updating guides and videos once we get these. For now, the following will be based off of the current...
The game is alive, guys! The game is alive! It receives updates. Beautiful.
Current live version in Korea, and the version we expect to see in play in the open beta test. The first weapon on the list is the Greatsword. Greatsword is a melee weapon that specializes in single target lockdown in the form of a big burst.
Can we just appreciate how pretty it looks? Like I just want to point it out again. This game is pretty. The color is like matching so well.
Think less hits but bigger numbers.
Less hits, bigger numbers. Okay.
Heavy attacks, so you can expect very frequent double damage procs on your hits. Greatsword relies on stunning and knock.
Was that less hits? Just look at the numbers. How often do they pop up?
Greatsword relies on stunning and knock damage. While its ability to CC is a huge advantage, one of the biggest disadvantages is that most of your damage relies on those very CCs. Greatsword is currently one of the 2 weapons that have access to wrath attacks that allow you to ground targets that's in an active blocking stance.
Okay, ground targets. Okay, so you just put them to the ground.
This gives you the ability to help dismantle frontline tanks.
RIP!
This weapon also provides one of the biggest single target burst damage in
the game. That looks very useful for PvP, by the way.
But due to the nature of it being more in the form of a juiced burst window, the overall DPS in PvE dungeons is mediocre at best. As for the recommended combinations, the first DPS option would be Greatsword Dagger, which will play like a
Oh, and sword and shield is a weapon. I thought it's like one of them is sword and the other is shield. No, but it's you can use great sword and shield. Holy moly, how many things can you actually carry on you?
Damage dealing assassin, giving you more of an
Sword and shield is a weapon type.
Targets like gameplay
That's
style.
wild.
A great comparison would be Dark Runner from Arcage. This class is extremely strong in smaller skirmishes, but very difficult to play the larger the scale due to the nature of being melee. Late game, you will not be able to sustain a CC combo or multiple people, so speed is extremely important. The Arc Boss Dagger weapon is an endgame must for this build. This special dagger will allow you to engage in stealth, but it will also allow you to get the stealth back to disengage upon executing your target. Without it, it will be extremely difficult to either engage or...
I hope that's not how the PvP looks like, that it just ends in like 1 second.
Which you use your stealth on. Greatsword Sword Shield is currently one of the most popular classes in the game right now for 2 reasons. 1, you're a tank, and 2, you deal solid damage. Don't expect to blow up targets as fast as Greatsword Dagger, but you will be able to mow down targets while sustaining as a tank.
Did he just run into 20 people?
Think more of a tank.
Can he actually survive that?
Only you're able to 1 or 2 combo squish your targets. I'll bring up another Arcade reference here, but this build plays similar to Abolisher, only tankier and able to deal more damage. Here are some of the key abilities for Greatsword. Stunning Blow. Your stun, which will provide you with additional...
Okay, that's good to know. So basically there's you can be, with the Greatsword you can either be a DPS boy, but mostly rely on CC, or you can be a DPS tanky boy, which also relies on CC, but also like he can just stand forever, right? But then we get really tanky boy, which is like Sword and Shield.
SNS is going to be it for you. A very complete...
Oh, there we go, SNS, and then you just see SNS, you know, in the game, and you're gonna know. Sword and Shield.
As you see here. If you
why SNS and not SAS?
Play tanks in MMOs, Sword and Shield, SNS is going to be it for you.
That's crazy.
Very complete tank weapon, SNS provides you with a variety of defensive buffs, allowing you to become extremely tanky when built correctly. These defensives include an active block that not only mitigates incoming damage, but also heals you when blocking fury attacks. Additionally, you'll have...
Oh wow, so blocking is actually a thing in the game. That's good to know.
A passive block rate plus...
I thought every class can do a block, but I guess you have to be a proper class to do it. Or have a skill
for your entire party. You will have access to a few offensive skills, allowing you to deal a bit of damage, as well as a unique reflect damage skill that scales off of your damage reduction, incentivizing tankiness to deal more damage.
Okay, I like that. So basically what they did is, instead of actually putting more damage into the class, they just made it so that the tankier you are, the more damage you do, which is very Ramus-like, I would say. So the tankier you are, the more damage you do, which that actually makes you want to be tanky. Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice pull.
These CCs include both pulls and pushes, along with stuns.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I like it so much.
Late game, you'll even have access to a multi-target hook.
Get in here.
To pull 3 targets at once to set up big burst damage from you and your team. Sword and Shield is one of the most important overall weapons in the game due to the need of tanks in both PvP and PvE content. The tanking capability, along with the utility and support a tank brings, is invaluable. Each SNS variation will play a little bit differently depending on your secondary weapon. For example, if you choose Wand to pair with SNS, you can fill both roles as a tank and...
It still feels weird that like Sword and Shield is one weapon and then you can have another weapon.
A healer simultaneously. Greatsword, Dagger, and Wand. Pairing SNS with Dagger is one of the tankiest builds in the game and an extremely strong choice in the early game as a pure tank. Along with your defensives, Dagger can also provide a ton more, giving you access to a lot of additional evasion, which
okay, evasion. Okay, I was like wondering why would you get the Dagger as a tank, right? It's made for DPS, but I guess evasion makes sense.
Magic evasion, magic generally being the counter to SNS. This evasion tank will also reflect damage from counter barrier and is even more effective.
Yeah, and then you can take one, and then you're like both support as well. Let's go to the Dagger section.
In DPS weapon, it's one of the worst in its current state, as the damage output from Dagger alone is not very high. This could be, of course, changed with the new skill expressions coming soon in Korea. With that said though, Dagger does have the potential to deal sneaky good burst damage at times with some of its abilities due to its offhand proc rate, which essentially...
Oh no, you cannot be targeted when you're stealth, but can you get damaged? This is also like interesting. Like if you go into stealth, can you still get damaged by AoE stuff? Because you cannot get targeted, but maybe you can still get shot.
You to hit twice, dealing nearly double the damage.
Interesting.
Pair this with crits that can heavy hit, and you can potentially quadruple the usual damage with lucky procs.
Quadruple the damage! Multiply it!
Have massive value due to its crit rate, evasion, and utility it provides.
Okay, so basically not very very effective with every other weapon. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But like dagger is a secondary weapon, right? From what I'm hearing here, damage doesn't justify it being the main weapon. Okay. Best gap closer in the game. Yeah, I would imagine, right? You can teleport like crazy.
Down, slept, or stunned.
Let's see the bow
as well,
really quick.
Both in PvE and PvP. You can expect to see a lot of bows at the top of the kill ranking on any server. Keep in mind that bows can also be buffed by shooting.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. I actually want to play the bow.
Despite this weapon being a two-hander that gives big burst,
I really want to play the bow with this stuff.
This weapon is designed around crit and not heavy attack. Bows will provide you with a good mix of on-the-go abilities and stationary ones. This weapon is designed around
it's a counter to stealth. Let's go.
Cooldown resets on major damage dealing skills, allowing you to
whatever I can do in my life to actually like kill all of the rogues and kill all of the invisible people. Then yeah, count me in. Count me in.
Your strongest damage skills over and over, up to 3 times. You'll also be able to control your targets at range by having access to roots. You'll also have access to the only counter to stealth in the game, revealing and stunning stealth targets.
Oh wow,
in
nice.
The open world,
so I might, if it's the only one in the game, then I might be incentivized to be a bow player.
Kite and deal large amounts of damage with good uptime. However, when caught,
we don't like rogues.
Bows have a major advantage with range in large-scale PvP, allowing them to attack under protection and utilize terrain. However, when it comes to mid to short range combat, melees will have the ability to shut you down.
You're just
in the support department, bows offer regen, CC, and debuff cleanses, as well as cooldown resets. As mentioned before, we're expecting more in this department very soon with the skill expressions. Recommended weapon combinations. There are 2
of course it's dagger, it's always dagger.
DPS recommendations to
pair you can run bow and staff. Let's go.
Staff. Dagger is your bread and butter that will have you feeling like a ranged assassin, very similar to Primeval from Arcage. You'll have access to stealth, poisons, close to mid-range gap closing CC ability, but more importantly, big crits. This build will be very solid for all forms of content. The other recommended is Bow Staff, which is a build that shines the larger the scale. Despite these 2 weapon types being different, Bow Staff will give you the largest arsenal of range skills in the game with huge burst potential. The bow will give you major.
So this is just pure DPS. This might be me. This might be me. You know, bow and stuff.
Staff provides not only single target burst, but big ranged AoE damage. This build is hands down.
Oh my goodness! Like the AoE. Like how many people are there? What the hell?
The best builds to be running as a damage dealer in
how many people are there?
Organized PvP content. Bow Wand, as mentioned earlier, is expected to be the full support build once skill expressions are released. Wands provide direct heals, buffs, and debuffs, while bows can currently add to the support arsenal by providing additional HP.
Okay. So basically, bow and wand is the ultimate support that you want, or is it the sword and shield and wand? Oh, imagine like you can be a tank and support at the same time. Like how good is that? You only need one of these guys, and then you're good to go.
That's unmatchable by any other class. The crossbow is also a weapon that's designed around crits. In contrast to greatsword, this weapon will deal damage in the form of multi-hits, allowing it to scale and synergize well with bonus damage and weaken. Since crossbows hit multiple times, being able to stack the
I have a feeling like if you're playing this class, you're gonna get like motion sickness really quick.
Work really
it
well.
moves so much.
Built correctly, not only can you kill players
yeah, mid to close range plays more like melee. Yeah, I would
melt
expect it to.
tanks. Aside from this, crossbows give you access to mobility, mostly in the form of movement speed, including a bind and movement speed reduction cleanse. This weapon...
So we've heard all about this, right? Let's see what the combinations we have. Yeah, there's only one. Like, it's crossbow and dagger, and then you become the ultimate assassin. Yeah, okay, we know that. We don't want that. No, we don't want that in our life. No. No, we don't want
longest
it
range
at all.
in the game, along with bows. And
We
a
don't
good amount
want
of the
only damage.
comes
We want
from
to be
burn
actually
dogs.
useful to the team.
This weapon also has big potential AoE ability,
Staff we
which
do
gives it
want,
huge
yes.
value in large scale PvP.
We do want the staff.
Like bow, staff is also affected by world conditions, namely rain. Staff will be able to deal significantly more damage when it rains. Generally
Really?
speaking,
How do you make it
best
rain?
Utilize the larger the scale. They can easily
How
be
do you
shut
make it
down by
rain?
melee despite being a damage type counter to plate because of its longer cast times. Keep in mind, skill expressions can change this. For example, one of the skill expressions that are confirmed is Firebomb having its cast time completely removed or being able to move while casting. Like the Greatsword, Staff is also supposed to be a heavy attack focused weapon that gives you the opportunity to have bigger possible.
Okay, so bow is a little faster, right? But then staff just focuses on dealing the big numbers. Big numbers. You have cast times, but then big numbers appear.
Burst. While the staff will give you more in this department, it won't.
I
be
like
to
that
the
one, to be
extent of
honest.
Greatsword. In return,
I like
however, you'll
like
have a lot
single
more
hits.
in
I
the
like where
ping
my
department,
numbers
giving you
matter.
more dot
you know?
damage and of course ranged AoE. The Arc Boss weapon currently in the game.
Wait, but then you get mana. Are you the only? Is staff the only person that has mana in the game?
For staff provides even more big time AoE damage. This weapon gives you a % chance to apply a delayed exploding insect on your target that deals a lot of damage to him and any target near him.
Okay, so basically, also like this is important, right? Compared to just having skills, you also need proper items that actually boost those skills. This is nice.
This percentage
It's
chance,
gonna create
like
a lot of
other
things,
Arc Boss
a lot of
weapons,
builds, a
can
lot
be
of
increased
possibilities.
significantly by stacking the weakened stat. This weapon has more value the larger the scale. When it comes to the recommended weapon
Oh man, this looks fun.
combinations,
This
the
looks
first
fun.
on
Like
the list
infinite
would,
people on the
not in any
PvP.
particular order, be Staff Dagger. Like all other weapons paired with Dagger, Staff gets increased crit and crit damage, on-demand stealth, and extra weakened damage.
Okay, yeah. So staff dagger, yeah, you get all of the goodies, right? You get the mobility, you get the evasion, you get the invisibility, you get all of the good stuff. Then you get staff and bow. So yeah, you're pretty much all ranged, right? All ranged, all damage. You really want to keep away from the people, but you can also keep them away from you, which is nice. And then staff and wand, then you become
From the
some
poison.
sort of a
Dagger
support boy.
Again,
What about the
this
wand?
weapon is expected to receive even more support options with the skill expression update and was confirmed to have a full support build option
DPS in the
available.
form of
As of
weakness.
now, your
Okay,
support will
okay.
come in
Curse
the
people.
form of group
So like
heals,
damage over time, right?
HP regen, buffs, and debuffs on targets. Like tanks, the healer role is a must in all forms of content, PvP and PvE. From a DPS perspective, Wand offers very scary single and group AoE damage. The overall damage per second,
Very
though, in
scary?
a prolonged fight would be considered lower as it takes some time to set up.
Okay,
When
so it's a
pulled off
base
properly,
damage class.
you
Okay,
can
okay.
delete chunks of players and can even one-shot if you have the Arc Boss Wand weapon, which gives you an additional
You can always be
curse
creative. True.
that you, TLDR to the playstyle is that you stack curses and sleep your target. You can then spread all of it to nearby enemies, then you curse bomb them, which deals all the damage any dot had left remaining in one single explosion.
Oh my goodness!
If you're fortunate enough to have the
It
Arc
got
Boss
popped.
Tevent Wand weapon, then Sword Shield Wand is currently one of the most powerful weapon combinations in the game, as acknowledged by NCSoft as being overtuned, and is expected to be tuned either directly or indirectly.
I'm so confused. So it is a support weapon, but at the same time, it deals the best base damage. This is weird. Yeah, you can pretty much add a wand everywhere, right? With any combination, you can add a wand, and you can add any weapon to wand, and it will work because it's a support weapon. That's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, so that's it. So we've learned a lot. There is not a lot of weapons. There is the greatsword, right? So big sword, big slashes, big damage. There is sword and shield, which apparently is a one weapon, and that's mostly for tanking. There is the dagger and the crossbow, which I meant for like single target mobility damage. There's bow, long range damage, single target, and then there is staff, which is long range damage, AoE. And then there's wand, which apparently is amazing and can do everything. And it's supposed to be a support weapon, but it's a best damage weapon, but can also support. Interesting. Combinations, I don't know. I'm really interested about the staff and bow. So I might be going for the staff and bow, but I might also go for the staff and wand or the bow and wand. In case we need some supportive capabilities. I don't think I'm gonna be going to any melee weapons at the beginning, right? because later on I think I'm gonna max all of the weapons anyways. So this is my hot take on the weapons that I'm gonna use.